In this jug are 1,286 millilitres of water, measured precisely because, as you can see, I am a scientist. Each millilitre of water represents £1 billion worth of government spending. And then in front of me are 17 key areas where the government spends that money. While numbers alone can't tell us everything about a nation, they fail to capture its feel and its problems, they can tell us a lot about its priorities. It reminds me of a Joe Biden quote, not that he is some financial guru to me or anything.
Don't tell me what you value, show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value.
So let's see what the UK values. We're going to start with the biggest and go all the way down to the smallest. 29.8% of everything we spend as a nation is on social protection. 383 millilitres, that's £383.9 billion spent on welfare. These are things like benefits, state pension, housing benefit, universal credit, those sorts of things.
If we break that down further, it looks like this. So this is just a spreadsheet that I've used to research this video and compile all of my data. I will link it below for you. It's a bit of a mess, but you can have a look. There are subcategories at the bottom, so you can click on an individual category like health and see how things break down. And I've also labeled those categories as well. But yeah, like I say, below for you if you want it. So of the 383 billion we spend each year on social protection, the majority of it, around 42%, is on old age, and the vast majority of that is state pension. Now, I don't think it's all that useful just to focus on the big numbers, because of course, state pension is a big number. Millions of Brits receive a state pension. So what I've done here is I've adjusted for inflation. So this table breaks down the inflation adjusted gain or loss since 2020. So we can see in this column the change since 2020 in nominal terms. We see in this column here the inflation adjustment. So this is what the 2024-2025 number should be if it kept up with inflation. And then in the final column, we have the real increase or decrease. So if that number is 0, that means that that spending has kept up with inflation. You might say then that, survivors and family and children are pretty much in line with inflation. I mean, say pretty much, it's still 241 million quid. It's quite a lot of money. But you can see here, there's been significant decreases in housing, but massive increases in old age and sickness and disability benefits above the rate of inflation. Remember, that number being positive is the number above inflation. So it's gone up a lot, and then it's gone up 6 billion above the rate of inflation as well. The state pension increase is a reflection of the triple lock guarantee, which ensures that long-term state pension increases above the rate of inflation and wage growth. And then this sickness increase really is a bit of a sign of the times. It's a nod to the fact that in the last 5 years, we've seen a dramatic increase in the amount of people that are signed off work on long-term illness and sickness. There's around 800,000 more people today signed off work than there were in 2019.
In a way, this leads us on to our next biggest jug. Healthcare, 241.8 millilitres, £241 billion. Nearly 3/4 of UK health spending goes on hospital services, with another 1/6 on GPs and community care. Of course, different countries pay for their healthcare systems in different ways, so it's really hard to compare like for like. What I want to do now is shift to a per person or per capita basis so we can make that comparison.
The amount of money that we spend on health spending per person really puts us right in the middle of the pack when it comes to comparing us to our OECD counterparts. But just look at America for me for a second. They are an outlier in very much the wrong direction. So they spend way more than anyone else on healthcare per person. Yet if we look at another chart, they have a below average life expectancy in comparison to the OECD. They're spending more per person and getting a worse health outcome.
So the next two categories are interesting. We have accounting adjustments at 128.8 billion and debt interest at 124.7.
Accounting adjustments, this is not money being spent directly. They're a mix of technical entries like writing down the yearly loss in the value of public buildings, depreciation if you will, updating estimates for public sector pensions and their values, and recognising student loans that will never be repaid. They're also used to remove double-counted money that moves within government departments so that the overall headline spending number isn't inflated.
I just want to point it out because it's big and there's a lot going on there. But it's not really fair to say that that's money going out the door. So we're just going to move it to one side. Now, debt interest, on the other hand, that certainly is money out the door, or all over the kitchen floor, maybe. 124.7 billion a year. In 2020, this figure was 42 billion. This wasn't even a top 5 figure in 2010.
Honestly, if you want to look for a reason as to why the UK feels a bit crap at the minute, I would say debt interest is the place you should start. It's all this extra money just being put into something that doesn't do anything for frontline services at all. 10%, £1 in every 10 of your tax money that you pay goes to servicing this debt. I guess the tempting suggestion is, well, let's just not pay it then. But that would likely destroy our ability to borrow any more money, and we currently continue to borrow every year at a massive rate. It would also destroy our international reputation, cause havoc in the financial markets, and collapse the value of pension funds, your pension fund, which holds a lot of this government debt.
Okay, let's fire some of these out. Education, 118 billion. Defence, 63 billion. Public order and safety, 51.4 billion. This is getting harder. I'm looking at farming, fisheries and forestry down there, wondering how the hell I'm going to pour out 6.3 millilitres.
While Science Damien sorts that out, let me tell you about today's video sponsor, Taxzap. Did you know that 12 million people are required to fill out a self-assessment tax return this year? Now, it's not just the self-employed either. There's loads of different reasons why you might need to fill one out. So you might be a high rate taxpayer who pays into a work-based pension or into a SIP and you need to claim back your additional 20% tax relief. You might have foreign incomes, or you might have earned interest on cash above your personal savings allowance. Like I said, loads of reasons that you might need to fill one out. Doing one of these can seem daunting, confusing, or even expensive if you need to hire an accountant on your behalf. But with Taxzap, it couldn't be easier. Just enter your information and connect your bank account, and it will prompt you with ways to reduce your bill, and even let you know of any allowances that you might be missing out on. The whole process can take as little as 15 minutes. It's HMRC recognised software, and they're really cheap. They start at £49. If you have a self-assessment to do this year, then definitely check out Taxzap. You can get 10% off using the link in the description, or the QR code that's on screen now, or by using code DAMIEN10. That's DAMIEN10.
So here is a breakdown for total government spending for the last full year of actual numbers that we have. Not a forecast, these are 2024, 2025 numbers, so these are locked in. We know this money was spent in this way.
And I do just want to interrupt and say, because I think it's really important to point this out, because we're using these numbers, much of, if not all of this spending was set out by the previous government.
And what we know is 60% of it was spent in just these three categories: social protection, health, and debt interest. Does that surprise you? If I asked you before this where you think we spent the most money, would you have said these areas?
Tax Policy Associates, the think tank headed up by Dan Needle, did some analysis of polling by Gabriel Milland. I'll link it below, but I want to focus on this chart that shows what the UK public feel are the biggest three expense items in the national budget. It's kind of all over the place, but the surveyed individuals seem to understand that the NHS is a big cost, and the same with debt interest. But a higher percentage think that we spend more on migrants and asylum seekers than we do on state pension.
Protective gear needed for this section because I can feel the heat in the comments already. But please try and remember that I am a real scientist.
Let's break this down the best we can. Asylum and these kind of costs will come under public order and safety, but that category covers a lot of things. 51 billion in total in this category, and in there you're getting police services, the court, prisons, fire services. It's this amount here, 6.25 billion, that relates to the types of costs that we're trying to look at, asylum and immigration. But within that 6.25 billion, you get immigration, you get borders, visas, passports, all the people sat at desks checking people's passports as they go in and out of the country. You get Home Office central services as well. There's a lot mixed in there.
From what I could find, around 4 billion a year goes on asylum and around 3 billion of that is on hotels. I'm not going to speak on the societal debates outside of the money. I don't think that's really my place here. What I will say is that 4 billion is a lot of money. It's about 1.5 billion more than we spend on fire services each year, but it still represents about 0.3% of the national budget. Now, of course, the costs might not be isolated to this section. They could appear elsewhere in healthcare services and welfare and other things, but I think we could say that for most items in most spending categories.
When I was researching this, I stumbled across some information from the IFS about this type of spending. So here is the planned spending on immigration each year. This is what the government says it will spend. Then here is the actual spend. In 2023, they claimed they would make money from it, but the cost shot up to 4 billion. And in 2024, it looks like it was the same. Politicians from successive governments have simply promised a low amount of spending on things like asylum and then funded it through what's called the reserve fund. A good way of thinking about the reserve fund would be almost like the government's emergency fund. The Treasury states that the reserve should be used for genuinely unforeseen contingencies. But if you're using it every year for the same thing, is that genuinely unforeseen? It seems that it's politically unpalatable to be upfront about these costs, probably because this topic just dominates the mainstream media discussion on a national level at the minute. I think this chart shows us that the UK public often correlate column inches with cost, and the things that are spoken about the most in the media are often conflated to be the biggest line items on the budget, even if they're not. And can you really blame people for feeling that way when the information is presented to them like this? Right, let's look at another department now that I think is interesting. Transport. Road, rail, water, air. And at 46 billion, that's a lot of money. But the real story again is in the inflation adjustment. So just like before, I've organised this by this end column, which just shows the real difference between the 2020 spending and today, or the last set of locked off figures that we got for 2024, 2025 after you adjust for inflation. The eagle-eyed will notice that at the bottom is healthcare at minus 30 billion. But that's a little bit misleading because in 2020 there was a massive surge in health spending and we've been winding our way back down from that. So it's not really a fair comparison. If you want a more extreme example of that, just look at enterprise and economic development, where we spent 131 billion in 2020 supporting businesses through COVID. So yeah, the health one is not really an accurate reflection. So what this actually tells us is the bottom of the pile is transport. And it shows us that in real terms, after we adjust for inflation, in 2024, we spent £15 billion less on transport than we did in 2020. And I think this transport story captures a wider feeling in the UK. So if we just go back to that Joe Biden quote, "Don't tell me what you value, show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value." If you didn't know this was the UK, and I showed you this, you'd probably say this country values social protection and healthcare above all, maybe education as well, but that it is being hammered by debt interest. The general theme since 2008 has been successive governments have protected the NHS and pensions, and then other public services that have not been protected have got worse. Now, I'm not saying that this was the wrong thing to do, but I do think it goes some way to explaining why large parts of the UK population feel that they don't get value for money from the tax that they give to the government. For example, if you're of working age, you don't get a state pension, you might not receive any benefits, you might not have kids, and even if you do have kids, you take them to school and you drop them off and you pick them back up again. You're not in the lesson, are you? Your experience of the government might just simply be your commute. On your commute where there's late trains and potholes and traffic jams. And you're thinking, hold on, I pay more tax than ever, but the services around me that I interact with on a day-to-day basis feel worse, because they are. With nearly 2 decades of weak economic growth, we've chosen to protect certain budgets at the expense of everything else. So what could we do to make this better? Well, there are 3 options. Number 1, grow the economy. That's making the jug bigger so that there's more inside of it. Number 2, we could raise taxes, which is pouring more money into the jug. That looks like what we're going to get in this budget, doesn't it? Now, I would have combined 1 and 2 in a way through a pro-growth tax reform kind of strategy where I look to change the tax system so that it encourages growth. Scrap stamp duty, consider a land value tax, don't raise taxes on workers. Maybe instead you could equalise the capital gains rate with the income tax rates. You'd need to add an indexation allowance into capital gains. But then with the revenue that you generate from that, you could bring down the overall rate on both of those equalised taxes. And what that would do is it would incentivise work because you're taxing workers less. And you also kind of appease the demands for wealth taxes through those kind of taxes as well. So, it's a genuine wealth tax in the form of land value tax and equalising capital gains rates. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, but I certainly wouldn't have just whacked up employers' NI because that is an anti-growth sort of tax because it taxes work more, which means you get less work, which is a key driver for growth. In the same way, stamp duty stops the movement of people, and the movement of people is a key way that you get growth. The final option is we just cut spending.
This is a popular idea because what's represented here is the government spending 45% of the UK's GDP. But a lot of the calls just to cut spending, I think, misses a little bit of nuance. So what we're looking at here is something called TME, Total Managed Expenditure. And the government can split that total managed expenditure into 2 broad categories. DEL, which is department budgets, fixed and planned over many years for things like wages. And then AME, Annual Managed Expenditure. This is demand-led spending the government can't easily control, like pensions, benefits, and debt interest. Waste, inefficiency, and bloat lives along this line. Of course it does. You don't spend £1 trillion without wasting some money. I mean, I've wasted billions all over the table just filling up the jugs. But when the majority of spending sits right here, where are you going to look along this line for savings? When we look across the line, it's nearly a 50-50 split between DEL and AME spending. But in the big 3 up here, 70% of the spending is AME, and that's because debt interest and welfare are basically all AME. If you want to cut spending here, you need to stop people getting old, or change the state pension, get rid of the triple lock. You need to stop people from claiming benefits or make it stricter to claim those benefits, or you need to beg for interest rates to come down to make debt interest cheaper. The IFS did a recent podcast where they explore spending and areas that we could realistically cut. I'll link it in the end cards for you if you want a deep dive on where we could cut things back. But cutting here isn't as simple as just finding efficiencies. To make savings in these departments, you need to rewrite the rules of them. You need to make some very unpopular decisions. You need to change the values of the UK. What would you do? Problem solved.
If I put my mind to it, little buddy, you know I'ma do it all the way. Roaches hate I'm making moves, I listen about as much as I can tolerate. From here on out, we cutting out the people who don't contribute to it.